Nobody expected this to be the moment that changed women's basketball forever. Not a buzzer beater, not a finals MVP, not even a championship parade. It happened before Caitlin Clark played a single WNBA minute. In April 2024, multiple outlets confirmed what insiders had been whispering for months. Nike signed Caitlin Clark to a deal reportedly worth around $28 million over 8 years, including a future signature shoe expected to debut in 2026. One of the largest endorsement contracts ever for a women's basketball player. Let that sink in. Before her rookie season, before her first pro assist, before defenses even figured out how to guard her. And suddenly, the entire WNBA ecosystem felt different. Here's why this wasn't just a shoe deal. Nike doesn't hand out signature shoes lightly. Their women's basketball roster already includes legends Sabrina Ionescu, Breanna Stewart, Y.A. Wilson, players with championships, MVPs, Olympic gold. Caitlin Clark hadn't played a single WNBA game yet. But Nike wasn't betting on stats. They were betting on gravity. Because everywhere Caitlin went, Iowa sold out arenas. TV ratings shattered records. Opposing gyms turned into road home crowds. ESPN games featuring Clark regularly doubled, even tripled normal viewership, and Nike saw something bigger than basketball. They saw a cultural inflection point. Clark herself hinted at that mindset when discussing footwear design, saying she wanted something unique to me, not just another recycled model, a sneaker people chase, not just wear. That detail matters. Nike wasn't planning a basic endorsement. They were planning a moment. Inside the league, the deal sent shock waves. Veteran players noticed. Front offices noticed. Sponsors noticed. Because whether fans loved Caitlin or criticized the hype, one truth became unavoidable. She was already moving money, eyeballs, and influence at a level the league had never seen from a rookie. And here's the part most people missed. Caitlin Clark didn't ask for this power. She didn't campaign for it. She didn't announce it loudly. Nike moved first. And once they did, the league could never go back to normal again. But this deal wasn't just about Caitlin Clark. Because what happened next, the ripple effects, the quiet tensions, and the pressure it put on everyone else is where this story really starts. Here's where the story takes a turn most fans weren't ready for. Because once Caitlin Clark's Nike deal became public, it didn't just elevate her. It quietly reset expectations for the entire WNBA. Think about the timing. The league was already coming off record momentum. The 2023 WNBA season saw its highest attendance in years. The 2024 draft shattered viewership records with Caitlin Clark's selection by the Indiana Fever becoming the most watched WNBA draft ever. And then Nike dropped the deal. Suddenly, front offices weren't just building rosters. They were managing spotlights. Every Fever road game instantly became a national event. Ticket prices surged. Secondary markets exploded. Arenas that hadn't sold out in years were suddenly packed weeks in advance. This wasn't normal rookie hype. This was economic gravity. Veteran stars understood it immediately. Sabrina Ionescu had already proven that a signature shoe could move culture and sell globally. A Wilson had built a resume that demanded respect. Breanna Stewart had championships, MVPs, and Olympic gold. But Caitlin Clark was arriving with something different. She wasn't chasing legacy yet. Legacy was chasing her. And that created tension, not resentment, pressure. Because every rookie deal, every endorsement negotiation, every future number one pick would now be measured against Caitlin's Nike benchmark. Agents noticed, sponsors noticed, players noticed, and Clark, she kept saying the same thing. She focused on basketball. In interviews, she consistently downplayed individual attention, redirecting praise to teammates and the growth of the game. She talked about responsibility, not entitlement, about understanding what the moment represented, not just for her, but for women's basketball as a whole. That restraint mattered, because the louder the hype got, the quieter she stayed. And that contrast only made the deal feel bigger. But here's the part nobody talks about enough. Nike didn't just sign Caitlin Clark because of numbers or buzz. They signed her because she didn't fracture the room. Despite intense scrutiny, physical defense, and relentless criticism, Clark never leaned into controversy. She didn't escalate. She didn't clap back. She absorbed pressure and kept moving forward. That made her safe and dangerous. Because when a player can carry hype and restraint at the same time, that's when leagues change. And coming up next, the unintended consequences of that Nike deal and why some people inside the WNBA quietly realized they were now playing in a different era. Now, this is where the conversation inside the league got uncomfortable because Caitlin Clark's Nike deal didn't just raise her profile. She brought mainstream inevitability. Television partners adjusted schedules. Broadcasters pushed fever games into prime slots. Social media engagement around Clark regularly outperformed entire team accounts. And suddenly conversations shifted from how do we grow the league to how do we manage this level of attention? That distinction is massive because growth is controlled. Attention is chaotic. Inside front offices, executives understood the upside. Sold-out arenas, higher sponsorship interest, rising valuations. But they also knew the risk imbalance. When one player becomes the gravitational center, everything else bends toward them. Clark didn't ask for that, but she couldn't escape it either. What made this even more complex was how she handled it. She never positioned herself above veterans. She consistently credited those who came before her. She spoke about learning, adjusting, and respecting the league's physicality. That mattered to players because this wasn't a rookie walking in like she owned the room. This was someone aware she'd walked into a house already built by others. And yet, the numbers kept speaking louder than words. Nike's reported $28 million commitment wasn't just endorsement confidence. It was a statement about who could carry the sport forward into new spaces. Sneaker culture, casual fans, younger audiences who hadn't followed the WNBA before, and that created a silent divide, not between players, between eras. Some fans framed it as favoritism. Others called it overdue investment, but insiders described it as something simpler, inevitability meeting timing. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just peak at the right moment. She arrived when the league was finally ready to catch what she brought with her. And here's the twist. This deal didn't just change how rookies are viewed. It quietly changed how teams evaluate pressure. Because if Caitlin Clark could carry this level of spotlight and still perform, the bar for mental toughness just moved. Next we need to talk about Indiana and why this Nike deal put a target on the Fever before the season even tipped off. Indiana didn't just draft a rookie. They inherited a spotlight. The moment the Fever selected Caitlin Clark with the #1 pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, everything around the franchise shifted and the Nike deal amplified it tenfold. This was a team coming off a rebuilding season focused on development, chemistry, and patience. Suddenly, patience wasn't part of the conversation anymore. Every Fever practice became content. Every warm-up clip went viral. Every road game felt like a neutral site event, and Clark walked into all of it carrying the weight of a $28 million endorsement and the expectations that came with it. Here's the reality most casual fans missed. Indiana didn't just have to help Caitlin succeed on the court. They had to protect her off it. Opposing defenses were physical from day one. Teams tested her stamina, her composure, her ability to play through contact. Veterans made it clear nothing would be given. And Clark responded the only way she knew how. She worked. She adjusted to the speed. She absorbed contact. She learned how quickly help defense collapses at the pro level. There were nights she struggled. There were nights she flashed brilliance. And through it all, cameras never left. The Nike deal magnified everything. A bad shooting night became a headline. A tough loss sparked think pieces. A quiet quarter triggered social media debates. But internally, the Fever stayed steady. Coaches emphasized growth over noise. Teammates spoke about her work ethic, her willingness to listen, her competitiveness in practice. The narrative outside was loud. Inside, it was controlled. And that balance mattered because Indiana understood something crucial. This wasn't just about Caitlin Clark's rookie season. This was about sustainability. Nike wasn't planning a one-year spike. They were planning a decade-long presence. And the Fever knew that if they rushed the process, the cost would be higher than wins and losses. But here's where the pressure really intensified. Every time Indiana stepped onto the floor, they weren't just representing a franchise. They were representing the future image of the league. And the rest of the WNBA noticed because if Indiana cracked under the spotlight, critics would say the hype was too much. If they thrived, the bar for every rebuilding team would rise. And coming up next, the moment players across the league realized Caitlin Clark wasn't shrinking from the pressure. She was learning how to carry it. There was a moment, subtle, easy to miss. When the league's tone around Caitlin Clark changed, it wasn't a press conference. It wasn't a viral clip. It was on the floor. Opposing teams stopped testing her emotionally and started testing her strategically. That's when veterans knew because early on Clark was getting the full rookie treatment. Physical defense, constant ball pressure, traps far beyond the three-point line. Teams wanted to see if the hype would crack her. Instead, she adapted. She started moving without the ball more. She trusted teammates. She took fewer rushed shots and punished defenses with passes when they overcommit. The game slowed down. And when the game slows down for a shooter like Caitlin Clark, things get dangerous. Players around the league noticed the shift. You could see it in defensive adjustments, in how quickly help rotated, in how coaches spoke post-game. This wasn't about welcoming a rookie anymore. This was about containment. And here's why the Nike deal matters in this phase.